So you remember the Dutch, right? Salsa dancing Dutch. So the weeks went on, and we were getting to know each other, meeting up for coffee, dinner, drinks, going over to his house and watching a movie, random things people do. And as I was getting to know him a bit more, obviously I was liking him a great deal more. He ticked all my boxes, the things that I wanted or thought I wanted. He was charming, intelligent, suave, cultured, well traveled, all these things that I love. And really, who doesn't like that? Well, some people don't. All those things that I love. And it was just so wonderful and charming and fun and invigorating to see this process and unveil and, take layers off. Like for all these layers, right? Taking some layers apart and understanding them a bit more. However, it did seem, though, that I was, remember, in a moment in time in my life in which I was eager and looking forward to possibly having a relationship. I wanted one. I wanted one if it was with the right person in the right circumstances. But it seemed that he was in a different point in his life. So we're talking about the playground today, right? We've done our work of the soil. We know what our seeds are. We water, and we intentionally water. We know what we want in our lives, and we're doing the daily work of watering. We've taken care of our body and community, enlarging it, and just being cognizant of who is around us, what communities do I I'm a part of. And now I'm just ready to play. I'm ready to go to the playground and meet new people. And that process is very interesting, very fun, very, very fun. However, it's a very broad process in terms of experience. Many things will come and happen in this stage of our CRUDO journey. Thus, it's important that as we're identifying the playground, remember when we were like 5 years old, there was a playground and you had the swing set and then you had the slide and then you had the sandbox. And if you didn't have those things generally exist in playgrounds. And I think I enjoyed playgrounds more as an adult than as a kid because I just think that they're fun. Neither here nor there. As we step into the playground, it's important to identify these parts in the playground. I like playground because it feels childlike and fun and innocent. But really, the reality is more like a jungle. It's a jungle out there. So, to make the jungle journey more pleasant and to avoid taking out the machete, if we can, let's do some level setting first. Let's level set. Okay. First and foremost, what are your priorities before you go to the playground? Okay, you might be in a stage in your life in which maybe you're in a new city or you have just left a relationship and you simply need to make friends. You're just looking for friends. And that's a wonderful thing to look for. And we should always be looking for new friends. Really, we should. Remember to keep our communities as varied as possible. But maybe you have loads of friends, you're already keeping your community as varied as possible, and now you'd like to, well, maybe have a little someone special, or you're open to having a little someone special. So friends, having a little someone special, or maybe you just want sex. Maybe you're just looking for sex. You don't have time because your priorities are work right now and you simply want some physical touch, some quality physical touch with someone. Maybe your priority is actually work right now or your finances because they're a mess and you need to put them in order before you can contemplate anything else. Maybe your priority is just self-work. You need to care for yourself a bit more before you even try to go out there. Remember, your needs first. How am I taking care of my needs first, covering them before asking for others to support me in that process? So what are your priorities? I ask this because depending on where your priorities are, you'll go out into the playground with different objectives. And sometimes you don't know what you want, which is fine, but be clear. The key here is to be clear. Whatever your priority is, be clear with others. Be clear with those that you're interacting with. Because if I'm looking for romance and your priority is work, but you seem to be fun and charming and you seem to like to be fun and charming with me, I might get a little confused, and vice versa. Right? So let's be clear about our priorities with ourselves and then with those that we decide to play with. If you just want sex, there's nothing wrong with that. You can be very elegant saying to someone, I'm sorry, I'm not actually looking for a relationship right now. I simply want to spend some quality time with someone physically just to get to know each other on a physical level, but I'm not emotionally available at this time. I can buy that and I can accept that every day, no problem at all. What I don't, what I want you to avoid is a situation in which you're selling something that I'm buying, but you actually don't have that. You don't have that available. All units are out. Let's not do that. Let's be adults. Let's own our stuff, right? Let's own it. So sell what you actually have and sell what you actually want. So if you want romance, don't look for sex. I mean, you can look for sex, but if you want romance, just be clear as to what you're out there searching for. Also, previous patterns. What are our previous patterns? If I typically have dated my ideal, let's say my ideal is a successful businessman, I do have a slight weakness for them. Let's call a spade a spade. I have a slight weakness for them. But let's say that's my ideal. And I've dated several of them. Let's say I've dated my last three ex-boyfriends are successful businessmen. Maybe it's time to change my ideal. Maybe. Whatever your previous pattern is, if it's a pattern and it's not working, let's change it up a bit. And the pattern could be something silly like hair color or eye color. That's fine. But if there's a pattern and something more tangible, like a value or personality, or something that's more rigid, or a layer you've decided, I want an artist. I need an artist in my life. Otherwise, I do not understand life or the partner. Whatever it is. If you have dated your ideal, if you have patterns that aren't working for you, let's just change them up or be open to changing them up. And another level setting element before we move on to the social trends to take into account. Okay, there are differences between men and women. There are. They simply exist. We are not the same. We will never be the same, nor do we need to be the same. That would be a detriment to society, and that would be a detriment to humanity because there's richness and variety. Okay, so since men and women are different, we manage relationships and romance differently. Our biology is different, our minds are different. The women, generally speaking, have more gray matter, which is why we seem to multitask so well. Our brains simply are more agile between the left and the right hemisphere. And men, having less gray matter, can actually focus a great deal more. What seems like a benefit to women, actually, I think serves as a detriment to us, because although we seem to multitask really well, we don't do any of those things really well at the same time if we're actually trying to multitask. And it also makes it really hard for us to be present. So work for women, for us, would be to the idea of mindfulness, exercise, and meditation, all these things, and just being present and focused is a muscle that we need to develop a great deal more. Also, ladies, we have a, I don't even know what to call it. I haven't put words around it, but I don't care if if it's a friend or if it's a stranger, and she's a high-powered, just a really successful businesswoman. She might be the CEO of a company. She might be a CEO of a company that we all use her products or not. It doesn't matter. The thing is, when romance seems to whiff its aroma around us, it hijacks our brain. All of a sudden, this high charging woman that was, running board meetings and looking for, the projections for the company for the next 5 years and working through business plans is intoxicated with the idea of romance. It's like you get hijacked much more so than men. Men don't seem to get hijacked as quickly, or in the sense that if we have priorities, imagine we only have three priorities: romance, love, work, and family. It's much easier for a woman for her priorities to just be hijacked all of a sudden, and love, it's like the only thing on our brain, unless we know that that's a tendency of ours and we do some self-management, some self-work to counterbalance that, to let the stream just go by, to things to go at their speed. Because what this brings us to is that situation in which you've gone on a date, maybe two, he hasn't replied yet, you're going crazy, he hasn't replied yet, he hasn't written a message, there's no sign of him. We'll talk about this later, but that crazy, we're going frantic, which men also go through that as well. But since our priorities seem to shift so quickly to romance, to love, we forget that 3 weeks ago, before I met this dude, I was looking at my financial projections. I was looking for companies that I was going to buy. I mean, what happened all of a sudden? My antique priorities are not as important. All that to say, we need to counterbalance this hijack. Our hormones and our emotions get the best of us. Okay, so some level setting. Some social trends that we must take into consideration as we navigate this playground, which is a hot mess. I'm just going to read some of these off. Loneliness. Most people in modern culture, in our societies, are very lonely. Most of them are. We are unattached. We're lacking connection. We don't have communities. We don't feel grounded. Our families live thousands of miles away, and all we see are, images of people having a great time on social media. We're lacking real connection, so we're very lonely. Take that into account as you navigate this maze. To be empathetic to that, and to know that we're all just a little more vulnerable because of that. It's a call to empathy, to be cognizant of that playmate that you're interacting with might have had a really sad and lonely year. So let's just be empathetic. Lack of maturity. Lack of maturity seems to be rampant. Everyone has they put prescriptions now for everything, so maybe we should hand out prescriptions for lack of maturity. Things like ghosting, love bombing, on all these things that we create all these fancy new terms for. At the end of the day, they come down to lack of maturity. Just grow up. If you don't like me, just say so. Period. There's no need for you to fall off the face of the planet and pretend you don't exist. That's bad. That's bad manners. It's just poor manners. So let's own our part, our bit in all of this. Also, fear of commitment. Oh, that's a classic. No? Fear of commitment. The classic, I want, but I don't want. I don't know. Should I go to therapy to work this out or not? Maybe you should. If you've been doing this for a while, you definitely should see a therapist to work through this. But maybe you should just grow up and decide, do you want a relationship or you don't want one? If you want one, then suck it up. There's stages that you have to go through of someone getting to know your layers, taking stuff off and taking off of their layers and being vulnerable. Just grow up and assume it. Just do it. Don't think about it. And if you don't want a relationship because you prefer to be alone, which you need people, so at least I hope you're looking for friends, then stop selling something you don't actually have in stock. Why bother? Why bother? Narcissist. We call everyone a narcissist now. Let's be clear. Everyone has a degree of narcissism. Assume it. However, clinical narcissism is an entirely different thing. And I believe the statistics, most recent ones I've heard, are between 1 in 6 people, one in six, or 1 out of 10. They're not that many. There are a lot, but they're not that many. Most of us who experience or have these aspects of our personality seem to shine through, just need a good smacking in the face. So just grow up. If you are the narcissist or the narcissist like, stop it. What are you doing? What are you doing? Just own yourself and be an adult, be mature, and handle things like mature people. Talking, saying limits, not taking advantage of people. Let's be clear. This is not that difficult. This is not rocket science. Immediacy culture. I want it not now. No, I wanted it 2 weeks ago. So I also wanted my romance 3 years ago, and I wanted the kids 5 years ago. We want things now, but things, relationships, anything about you that's worthwhile takes time. It's like a slow cooker. Don't pretend that the same speediacy that you have when you ask for something online and it's delivered to your house in a couple of hours, in a couple of days, that you can have it in other aspects of your life, changes that refer to you and to your person, nor changes that refer to what you want in your life. If you want a relationship, those that look like glorious gardens, they take a great deal of work. They take a great deal of time. A sequoia tree doesn't reach its peak overnight. Mental unwellness. Clearly, we've gone through a very tough last couple of years, but our society was already fragile before that. So I cannot attribute it to that only or especially. We were fragile before then. Just take that into account. The playground is complex. Not most people, us included, are on a scale of we're not so well. We're not so well. We have to work at being wholer, more to be healthier in all sense of the word. So when you're meeting new people and when you're interacting with them, let's go back to empathy. Take into account that they're in their process of restoration, recuperation, of just healing, of finding their pH balance again, hopefully, if they're working on that. And we too need to be on that work as well so that when others interact with us, they're finding someone that's more balanced and more where they need to be. If you're an app user, so I'm not for or against apps. It's a knife. It's like a technology. It's out there, and you can do wonderful things with a knife, and you can do terrible things with a knife. One of the terrible things that we do with the knife of apps, of dating apps, is to treat people as if they're disposable. We treat people. I actually don't really care what app you're using because they tend to lead to the same effect. We see photos, we read a little bio, and we might even start talking to this person. All of a sudden, I'm not interested, or they said something stupid, which is not the same thing you would do in person. It's not. You might be more gracious. You might take more time to get to know the person. We disregard people very quickly in the digital world, and we treat them as if they're disposable, as if they're a napkin and you just throw them in the waste bin. Let's not do that because we don't want that to be done to us. Other things you might come across: gold diggers. They exist. It's a real thing. They exist. There are people out there that simply want to date others for whatever benefit they can get from that relationship. It's a fact. Let's assume it. The question is, are you attracting that type of person? If you have in the past, what elements can we tweak to get a different result? If you are that type of person, I would encourage you to evaluate your self-worth, to evaluate the habits that you're cementing in yourself, that you think that the best way for you to move ahead in life is by means of using someone to get those means. I think it's worth looking at, because if the situation was inversed, would you want someone to only date you because you're a high net worth individual? Would you actually want that? I don't think you would. I don't think most of us would. We want someone to want to be with us because they either see our diamond, they see what comes through our diamond, or because there are other factors of our personality that enhance their life, that makes them smile, that enrich our connection together. Other elements you might come across in the playground: divorcees. Yes, many, depending on how old you are, there will be many divorcees in the playground. And that's great and fantastic. I think it takes a great deal of courage to take that step. Be gracious with them. Be gracious with them. The situations that led to the divorce can be very diverse, can be very different. And the key is to be gracious. We want to extend the same grace that we've received. We want to extend the same grace that we want to receive. So it's a give and take. So make sure to give and take, because there will be many situations in which you'll hear stories that you think, oh my goodness, I am meeting the bravest person I've ever encountered. So just be sensitive of those situations. Be sensitive of, they have very complex layers. They might have kids. They might have a complex situation with in-laws. Just be gracious. And lastly, of the social trends to understand the playground. It's become very popular in recent years, last decade or so, maybe longer, to vilify men. Ladies, I mean, really, what I'm as feminist as you want me to be. And I believe in equal rights and all of that. That's clear. But why? Why do we think, or why have we begun to think that by making someone the bad guy, all of a sudden that's fixing anything in our situation? First of all, we need to own this. We need to own this. Uh, Men are all raised by a mom, a woman. So if we're really upset with and I don't want to open this can, but if we're really upset with the situation of equality and so forth, it still comes back to us. What are we teaching our sons in our homes? What are we teaching our brothers in our home? What are we teaching our friends in school? This is a give and take. Society is never made simply by the strongest. That's impossible. We all know that things don't work this way. It is a two-way street. So how are we feeding this two-way street of ironing, sharpening iron, of being mirrors to each other? I just think it's made dating a great deal more complex and more difficult, because clearly social norms have changed and so forth and all that jazz. However, when a man runs a risk of being denounced for assaults simply because they have given me a compliment, I think we need to reevaluate things. As a general rule, I'm not saying that some measures are not necessary. I'm not saying that there's a great deal of re-education that needs to happen, but I think the re-education is mutual. And I think we need to think about it more from a humanistic perspective versus this gender battle that has never made any sense. It just separates us, versus realizing that although we have differences, we're a great deal more alike than we think. And once you actually encounter two adults that are mature, They're a great deal more alike than you can imagine. Okay, so we have some level setting, we have some social trends. And now, what are some deal breakers? What are some boundaries that you need to set as you play and to make new friends? Some clear ones might be, violence. That's pretty clear, right? Violence, abuse, disrespect. These are pretty clear boundaries and red lines or lines in the sand that we'll want to trace and carve out. And no one should pass here. I think those are important as we interact with others, and I think they're important as we work on ourselves. So the work from last week, it's really difficult work, but that work is actually continuous. And there's some red lines that we need to establish with ourselves in terms of, I will not disrespect me breaking my own rules. It doesn't mean I'm not even talking now about interactions with others, but it means what are the rules that I've set for myself, the objectives that I set for myself that I need to meet and be loyal to. So think about what are your boundaries, think about what are your red lines, think about what is actually not a deal breaker, religion, race, economic status. Sometimes we make these deal breakers that are not important for what you're actually looking for in new playmates, because you need playmates in order to interact with people to decide, I want to play more with this mate than the other one, or the complementary and the contrast of seeing and meeting new people. I think it's helpful, but the deal breakers should be things that are actually important to you, not superfluous stuff. If income level is actually really important to you, then let it be. But I think other stuff might be more important to you. If they went to an Ivy League school is important to you, well, I would challenge that. However, until you're ready to let go of that layer, I can't force you to do that. So, as we remember, we attract what we are, not what we hope to be. So, as you look at your playground, okay, who do you want to spend time with? What comes to mind? What is that vision of the people you want to spend time with? See you tomorrow.